Good afternoon.
Hello. Thank you. Richard Strange, David, very, very bloody strange, right?
David Icke, my name's Richard Strange, and for the next hour, we're going to have a chat, basically. I suspect David might get a few more words in than I do, but that's only fitting for the interviewer-interviewee dynamic. You're here to hear what he has to say, and I'm here to press the buttons to get him to say it, I guess. I do a show in London called A Mighty Big If, which is a chat show. I normally do a one-to-one, usually with artists, so interviewing David today is going to be a new and I'm sure very interesting, provocative, maybe controversial, and certainly engaging experience for all of us. So I do hope you'll enjoy it. So give a very big hand for David Icke.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now, David, because we've got a bit of time, do you mind if we go back to the very beginning? It's a long journey you've come on, and I hope it's a long journey you'll take us on today and bring us right up to speed. But for my generation, you were a household name. For a totally different generation, you are a household name again. But it's been a journey, hasn't it, that you've come on from that first, well, growing up in Leicester and a kid who wasn't really achieving much except a bit of sport.
Yeah, I hope that in the last nearly quarter of a century that I've made something very plain for everybody, and that is we need to express who we are and not what some bloody society, some school, some university, some media blueprint tells us we must be. And if you keep walking on that expression of uniqueness, whatever it is, in a world of enforced uniformity, a world of psychological fascism where we're constantly told what we should think, what we should do, what we should say, where we should go, how we should live our lives, then when you express uniqueness in a world like that, you are going to get some response. I seem to remember that I had some...
Give me a minute to express my uniqueness.
Oh, go on then.
Seeing as Bestival presents itself as an ethical space, I just thought it would be good for you guys to know that David Icke said, I strongly believe that a small Jewish clique
oh my God.
with non-Jews to create the first Russian Revolution and the Second World War. He has said that the Jews financed Hitler to power.
Right.
So, a wonderful, and somebody, as David I'm sure would suggest, you listen to everyone, you give everyone a fair hearing. We are not on teams here. We are here to have a debate, if you wish.
Now we've hit on something. Now we've hit on something, which is exactly the theme that I was talking about, which is other people telling other people what they should think, do, and say. I have no problem with that lady saying whatever she likes. She has a problem with me saying what I like, and that was massively out of context, by the way.
But David, could I just ask if they were your words that she quoted?
I'm not going there. It was massively out of context. And so what happens is, even though the mainstream have all the media, all the education system, and all the corporations, and they own the banking system, when one man gets up and speaks his truth, somehow there's a problem with that. I have no problem with her or anyone else speaking their truth. Who is the fascist? Who is the censor? Me or thee?
But could I just ask you again, were the quotations that she was quoting back at you words that you'd said? Context or not?
If I talked about that, then I'd be talking about that for hours, because it has to be put into context. People who've actually read my books realize what nonsensical stuff that is. I don't talk about Jewish people. I talk about something called Rothschild Zionism. And the lady might not know, but around the world, this wasn't where I was going to go, but I will. Around the world, unpublicized by the mainstream media, go on the internet and find it, are large numbers of Jewish people who actually protest against Zionism. Because Jewishness, the race, whatever you want to call it, and Zionism, the political philosophy, are not the same thing. And I'll tell you something else. As we speak, there is a whole people in Palestine undergoing systematic genocide. Who is speaking out for them? This is not about race, it's about decency. Anyone sees my philosophy on the nature of reality, remember who you are. Yeah, so who are we? What is this reality that we're experiencing? We are consciousness, infinite awareness, having an experience called David Icke, Charlie Jones, or Ethel Smith. These divisions of race and religion and income bracket and all this stuff are there to divide and rule us. We are all one consciousness. Jew, Gentile, atheist, Muslim, none of them. I don't care. These are just labels. These are not who we are. These are just titles for our experience and our belief system, which pulls us into a tiny fraction of who we are. How many people get up in the morning and think, hey, I'm all that is, has been, and ever can be, having an experience? No, we get up and we say, I'm a Jew, I'm a Gentile, I'm English, I work in the store, I'm a banker. These are labels, and they're labels that pull us into a fraction of the infinite awareness we all are. It's an illusion. You know, people go about their lives. We have a science, we have the media, we have education, we have all of this stuff, and it's all based on a simple, massive, big lie. And labels like Jewish and Muslim and all this stuff are part of the big lie. They're all pulled into it. And that big lie is...
Is Zionist part of the big lie as a label?
Mate, I want to speak to the people. If you keep interrupting me, I've got no flow. I'll stop when I'm ready. Now, we think of ourselves as those labels, when what we are is infinite awareness. And all those institutions are based and founded on the big lie that we live in a solid world. We don't. This is an illusion. Even quantum physics has shown that there is no solidity. So if this is not solid, even though I'm experiencing it as such, what the hell is crazy anymore? What the hell is fantastic anymore when this ain't solid? Why? Because it's made of atoms, they tell us, and atoms have no solidity. How can something made of no solidity create a solid world? It can't. And once you take on the idea that the world is solid and this is solid and all this is real, you take on the belief system of limitation. Because once we believe in solidity, then we believe, of course, in the limitations of solidity. When we realize that we are infinite awareness and everything is energy expressing itself in a different way, when we realize that we live in a virtual reality universe akin to some virtual reality wireless internet, then suddenly limitation's not there anymore. You can start to express and to understand the full magnitude of who we are. Jew, Gentile, anybody, labels, irrelevant. We take them seriously. They divide and rule the many so the few can control the direction of the world.
Could you tell me here, what is the point of the conspiracy and who is running it?
Well, for 25 years I've been going down this road of uncovering a global conspiracy. And the reason that so many people come to my work today, having ridiculed me and dismissed me years and years ago, is because what was in my books years ago is now on the television news. And it's quite simply, there is a network of families, no, not Jewish, a network of families that are sitting on top of the banking system, the media, the corporations, governments of any party. This is why, you know, Blair gets replaced by Brown, gets replaced by Cameron. What changes? Bugger all. Bush gets replaced by, oh, Mr. Change, Obama. What changes? Bugger all. Why? Because the way politics is set up is that, I'll give you an American example. In the Bush era, Republican, it says here, that was controlled, even the mainstream media acknowledged that, by a group of people were known as the neoconservatives or neocons. The Democratic Party in America is controlled by a cabal just the same that I call the democons. It includes people like George Soros, the financier, and Zbigniew Brzezinski, Jimmy Carter's former national security advisor. Now, the neocons and the democons at the next level answer to the same force, meaning whoever's in power, they're in power. The same happens in Britain, and that's why nothing changes. Labour, Conservative today are standing on the same postage stamp, and that is dictated by this hidden power. And so the structure of world control, because I mean the question is, how do a few control the many? How do a few control billions? You know the answer to that? If you know the structure by which they operate, it's a piece of bloody cake. But we have to be kept in the dark about that, and this is the structure. If you look at a transnational corporation, say like McDonald's, they will have a headquarters somewhere in the world, and from that headquarters they will have subsidiaries in every country. And those subsidiaries will operate in line with the centrally dictated agenda from the headquarters. So if you go into a McDonald's in the Soviet Union, in Australia, in America, in Britain, anywhere, you're going into basically the same McDonald's. The structure of global control is based on that model, except it's secret societies. The center of this web is in Europe for historical reasons, and in each country there is a network of families that control that country's banking, politics, business, media, etc. And its job in each country is to introduce the centrally dictated agenda in their sphere of influence.
And the agenda is what?
I've got to put these pieces together. One dot leading to another dot. I'll come to that. And therefore, you have this central cabal operating out of Europe, not European governments, centralized secret society web. And they dictate to the subsidiaries. And their job is to carry out the centrally dictated agenda in their sphere of influence. And so, we have had this constant centralization of power in every area of our lives. And it's got to such a point, had done for a very, very long time, where it's got a name. It's called globalization. Globalization, the centralization of power in every area of our lives, is this very agenda I'm talking about. Because if you are a few, and at the center, at the core of this, compared with 7 billion people, it is a few, then you cannot have diversity of decision-making in any way, shape, or form. Because the more you have diversity of decision-making, the more impossible it is for a small cabal to actually dictate to all those points of decision-making. What you want to create this centralized Orwellian state that we're hurtling towards by the day is to constantly centralize power, because then at each point you centralize power, fewer and fewer people are dictating to more and more people.
But if this is a cabal that is so all-powerful, so omnipotent, how come they cannot keep the simple secret of a secret society secret? How come you know about it and your followers know about it?
25 years of full-time research traveling to 50-odd countries. How many people do that in search of one research area of research? That's what it takes to put this together. And if people haven't seen now where we've got a situation where power is going into fewer and fewer hands, where someone not even elected is now running Italy, and don't think that's a bloody one-off either, because I've been writing about that for years. They want an end to democracy, as we call it, because they call it the post-democratic, post-industrial society. That's where we're heading. But the point is that in all areas of our lives, I mean, look at it. Look at media ownership. Fewer and fewer and fewer people. Look at government. Let's take the European Union. I wish someone would. There was a point a long, long time ago, I'm sure many people at this festival would wish we were there now, but there was a time a long time ago, actually not maybe that long, when people lived in tribes. And the people in the tribe decided what happened in the tribe. We then reached this massively critical point where lots and lots of tribes were brought together under something called nations. Now, a few people at the center of the nation are dictating to all the former tribes from the center. Then we moved into this other critical point where lots and lots of nations were pulled together under something called the European Union. Now a few people at the center of the European Union are dictating to all the former countries, which are dictating to all the former tribes. And we have a situation now where 75% of laws affecting this country are decided in the European Union by the European Commission, which is an unelected dark suit cabal. And it's going on and on and on and on.
David, if I could just drop in here. You mentioned the example of Italy and the fact that Italy now has an undemocratically elected prime minister. What's your preference for the democratically elected Berlusconi?
Well, let's ask what your preference is.
I don't have one. I'm just an interviewer.
Lip service at least to having people decide who they want to vote, ridiculous as it is, to an even more outrageous situation where they don't get the chance. Someone else dictates it.
Are you a Democrat?
I believe in people having control over their own lives, their own views, and their own thoughts. All people.
All people, okay.
All people.
I just wanted to clarify that.
You know, people talk about fascism and communism.
How do you put a system in place that enables that?
You keep talking about a system. Why can't we find a level of intelligence and a level of open-hearted togetherness that we can't just live our lives? I have a simple philosophy, you know. I'll tell you what it is. Do what you like, so long as you don't impose it on anyone else. End of frickin' story, by the way. End of story. And people say, oh no! Well, what about someone murdering someone? And you go, well, I think murdering someone might just be imposing your will upon them. What do you reckon? Laws are there to control people, and the laws that need to be there at this time are there to overcome the fact that we are not in a state of consciousness where we can respect each other's right to be different and respect each other's right to be who they are. I don't care what people do, so long as everyone is happy doing it and is not having it imposed upon them.
I think that's very easy to say, and very noble thoughts, but as we all know, it's absolute nonsense. It just doesn't work. How do you get hospitals? Who's going to do the toilets in that situation? Who's going to do the plumbing? Who's going to drive the buses? Who's going to dig the graves?
Unbelievable. You see, the thing is, this is how deep the programming of humanity has gone. We cannot see an alternative to the system that controls us. It's unbelievable. We can live in a society without being told that we must do this and must do that. Why? Well, unbelievable. You know what education is? Education is preparing people to think the way the system wants. You come out of the womb, and within 3 or 4 years, you're sitting at a desk being told what to do and think by authority. And then you go on and on and on, and the system tells you what to think and what to believe, and you learn that actually intelligence doesn't come from yourself, it comes from repeating what authority has told you to bloody believe. And I mean, we then go all through the education system, and at the end of it, what are we? Unless we've managed to hold on to some kind of uniqueness, we're just another expression of the system, so much so that we can't think of a world without the system. What was that line in the Matrix movie where the Neo character, the Morpheus character, was talking about people in the system being so inert, so controlled by the system that they fight to protect it? What do you think troops are doing when they're slaughtering the innocent around the world? They are saving a system that does that, and they're saving and protecting a system that wishes to not only control them, but control their children and grandchildren on a freaking level that'll have you running home to your mum. People have no idea what's coming if we don't wake up, grow up, and open our minds from the programs that enslave us. For goodness sake, my grandchildren are going to have to live in the world that people looking the other way, not my problem, or no, he's just mad, are going to have to live in. How bad does it have to get? Look at it in this country. All the laws taking freedoms away. In America, the president can now order the arrest of anyone and jail them without charge, without evidence, and without any trial. He can, and does, sign a death list where they can kill Americans abroad and other people with drone attacks. No judicial even, that's bloody corrupt as well, but no judicial oversight. It just signs it. This is going on in our world now. But how bad does it have to get before we wake up and roll this back? Because if we don't, my God, we're going to regret, well, I'm not, I'm doing my bloody best, but people are going to regret this for a very long time, like the rest of their bloody lives. And I tell you what they're going to have to do. These policemen and uniforms and dark suits that are bringing this in by the day, those people in the community who are going, no, he's mad, oh no, that would never happen, they'd never do that. They're going to have to look their children and grandchildren in the eye at some point. When their children say, Mummy, Daddy, what were you doing when this Orwellian fascist dictatorship came about? And they're going to have to say either, I was watching EastEnders, honey, or in the uniforms and the suits, they're going to have to say, I was helping to bring it in, honey. For goodness sake, wake up.
David, do you think it's possible to have shades of political opinion without having to necessarily subscribe to the idea of secret reptilian societies controlling the whole world? Do you think there might be just a little bit more subtlety in the world than that?
You're a nice man. Okay, let's take that on. I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit. I really don't. You know what, the one thing that ridicule cleared out of me 25 years ago? The fear or concern with what other people think of me. And I'll tell you that is the greatest freedom you can imagine. How many people in this world can say that? Eh? So let's take the reptilian thing on. Do you know, look at you. I've seen more brains in a tin of peas. Anyway, listen. Let's just look at this, shall we? Do you know that one of the greatest prisons that people live in, and one of the greatest ways that we are enslaved while denying it, is the control of the perception of the possible. If you control the perception of the possible, boom! Anything that happens outside of that, your perception of the possible is going to dismiss it as impossible. And so, if you don't realize that it's possible to mind control someone, to go and shoot people en masse with a gun, then when it happens and the government gives you their official version of it, your perception of the possible has nowhere else to go except the government explanation. There can be no other. But when you open your bloody minds and do a bit of research and remove the arse from the sofa, then you start to expand your sense of possibility and therefore have other possibilities with which to question the lies. Now, okay, reptilian entities, okay.
Your phrase,
people here.
Your phrase, not mine.
People, yes, of course it's my phrase. It's in all my books. Anyway, okay, how many people here think at this moment that they can see everything there is to see in this space? How many people think that? How many people think that? Right. I see, that's hilarious. You know what you can see is a tiny, tiny frequency range, so tiny it's laughable, called visible light. That's all you can see. Okay, you know what X-rays can see and infrared cameras can see, and that's only a little bit out from this frequency. Can you see that now? So who put their hand up that they could see everything in the space here? You can't even see what technology can see. And if you look at what mainstream science says exists in this universe as mass and matter, what they call dark matter, dark energy, and all the rest of it, the electromagnetic spectrum is around 0.005% of that. Some people say a bit more, but not much. Visible light, which is all you can see and decode into a visual reality, is a fraction of the 0.005%. So, here's the question. What goes on in the other almost totality of the universe? What goes on in there? What goes on in there? You haven't got a clue, have you? You haven't got a clue, and I haven't got a clue about vast amounts of it, but I am open enough to realize I don't know, and therefore I'm open to other possibilities. You are going, I don't know, nothing exists. And a few people can't control the world. It's a piece of piss.